Hello everyone, and welcome to Insight TV, signals from the non-conscious. At Insight TV, we take a weekly look at some of the neuroscientific findings as they relate to leadership development, human performance, and change management. My name is Paul McFadden, and this is my lovely host.
Hello, I'm Lori Ellington.
And we are the founders of 0 Point Leadership, as well as NeuroLeadership University. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the topic of insights. This topic has come up last week in our NeuroLeader Masterclass. And we're going to explore today how to have more insights and how to ignite your creative mind.
Yes.
So what I'm going to have Lori do first is explain to you what insights are and how to have more of them.
Yes, great. Thank you, Paul. We are talking with you today about insights because obviously Paul and I are fascinated with them. We want to know how to have more of them, and we want you to know how to have more of them. And here's why. Let's talk a little bit about what they actually are and why they are so important to leadership. Insights are what happens when we have a solution that just emerges very quickly into our awareness. Now, this solution is often called an aha moment. Mark Jung Beeman from Northwestern University, he actually studies what happens in our brains when we have these aha moments. And he calls them a time when the non-obvious becomes obvious to us. Here's why they are so important. Insights are what's needed in order to solve our most complex problems. The problems that have potentially multiple solutions, and really those problems that come up when we really feel like we're stuck at an impasse. So they're critical to being able to lead positive change. What's happening inside our brains? What does brain science say is taking place underneath the hood when we have these aha moments? Well, it's actually quite interesting. First of all, it's important to know that insights are when we pull together information in a whole new way. And it's really when just a few brain cells come together and have a conversation with each other. Here's how intriguing this really is. When we make what seems like a very simple decision, such as what to eat for dinner or what to wear to work in the morning, millions of brain cells come together and talk with each other. However, when we have an insight, only a few tens of thousands of neurons come together and speak to each other. So what's really critical about insights is that our brains are very quiet because insights are quiet. They are quiet signals, as Paul described earlier, from the non-conscious. And so what we want to do is make sure that we decrease the noise level in our brain so that we can actually hear these creative solutions to the problems that we have that seem to be our most complex problems.
Well, thank you, Lori. Lori has done an excellent job of talking about what makes for a quiet brain. And what you're probably thinking about now is, well, what makes for a noisy brain? How does my brain get so noisy? Let's talk about that and explore that for a second. A lot of times when we are thinking about a problem and then trying to find a solution for that problem, it creates a sense of anxiety or fear or stress. And ironically enough, sometimes thinking about a problem is usually, or sometimes the incorrect way to solve the problem. What happens is a lot of times you get into a state of threat. And the reason why this is on a fundamental level. The brain is organized in a manner such as to minimize threat and maximize reward. And this assessment happens in the brain for everything we do. It happens 5 times a second, but it happens for every situation that we're in, including when we're trying to solve problems. So what's even interesting about this scenario is that whenever there is the slightest threat, doesn't matter what it is, if there's the slightest threat, in our brain, it turns on a survival mechanism. It's fear of loss of life or or fear of danger where I have to protect myself. And it doesn't matter if you're in a situation that's physical where, let's say, you're being chased by a bear. It doesn't matter, you know, or if you're in a social setting, if you've been rejected, or even if your boss comes up to you and tells you, hey, I'd like you to come to my office and give you some feedback. In your brain, it doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter if it's a physical threat or it's a social threat. It sees it the same way. And so all these threats create noise in the brain.
Yeah, so now you know kind of what an insight is, why they are so critical to leadership, and a little bit about what kind of gets in the way to having them, which is noise in the brain. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to share 5 strategies for having more insights by igniting your creative brain. And your first strategy to have more insights is to get quiet. As Paul just talked about, when we have just the slightest stress response or a threat response in the brain, it creates quite a bit of noise. And when that noise, as that noise level goes up, we are less able to hear creative solutions and those small connections between neurons that are taking place. So what we want to do is we want to be relaxed, and we want to create more stillness in our minds so that we can hear those subtle signals and communication from our brain that's giving us creative ideas. So, strategy number 1 for having more insights and igniting your creative brain is to be quiet.
And strategy number 2 is to stop trying. Now, when we look at problems, a lot of times we're looking at problems from a certain perspective, what we call a mental set. So when you're trying to find a solution for a problem, and you're focused with a particular mental set, you're limiting yourself to the solutions that would be discovered through that mental set. So what we want to do is try to look at a problem from a different perspective or a new mental set. If we're able to employ a new mental set, we can find fresh ideas, new ways of thinking about the problem to come up with a solution for the particular problem. So the second strategy is to stop trying.
Right. And strategy number 3 is to be happy. You don't have to be ecstatic, but just being in a slight positive mood, brain science tells us, allows us to be in a state where we're more open, we're more curious, we're more interested, and because of this, we are open to new creative ideas and different ways of seeing things. And so strategy number 3 for having more insights and igniting your creative brain is to be happy.
And strategy number 4 is to use mind wandering. There's been a lot of fantastic research coming out of the University of California by Dr. Schuler on the concept of mind wandering and daydreaming as it relates to creating new insights. Now, a classic story of mind wandering is the story of Archimedes. Everyone knows the story. Archimedes was tasked by the king to determine whether or not the goldsmith had cheated him when he crafted his crown. Now, from a logical perspective, it's easy. Take the weight of the gold versus the weight of the crown and just compare them. You may want to melt down the crown from a logical perspective. But in the situation, he was not able to just melt down the king's crown. So he had to come up with a new way to solve this problem. And he racked his brain for days, weeks, trying to figure this out. So one day, Archimedes is in the bathtub, just thinking, mind wandering, daydreaming, mind wandering, thinking about nothing else, and he suddenly became aware of the fact that when he got into the tub, the level of the water rose. And when he got out of the tub, the level of the water receded. And then he had the insight, wow, I can just put the king's crown in the water and be able to determine the volume of the gold and then measure that and compare that to the weight of gold that's not melted down. And so he got so excited about this insight that he had that he jumped out of the tub naked, running frantically down the street screaming Eureka. And so strategy number 4 is to use mind wandering.
I love it. And strategy number 5 is to practice stepping back. sometimes just getting a little bit of distance from a problem helps us to be more open and to hear those creative insights. Research actually shows that if we visualize ourselves solving a problem tomorrow or even a year from now, we actually produce more creative insights and solutions to the problem. So there seems to be something about just getting a little bit of distance from the problem that allows us to come up with some big ideas. It's kind of like the metaphor of being able to see the forest for the trees. So getting a little distance is really critical to being able to ignite that creative brain. So strategy number 5 for having more insights is to practice stepping back.
Excellent. So let's do a quick recap on 5 strategies on how to have more insights to ignite your creative brain. So strategy number 1.
Get quiet. Strategy number 2.
Stop trying. And strategy number 3.
Is to just be slightly happy. And strategy number 4.
Is to use mind wandering. And strategy number 5.
Is to practice stepping back. So now you have 5 strategies for being able to have more insights. We are wondering how you might use these strategies to ignite your creative brain.
Please feel free to submit your questions and comments on the space below this video to answer that question and to give any insights that you may be having.
Absolutely.
Also, if you'd like to learn how to use science to dramatically improve performance and lead transformational change within yourself and others, please feel free to visit us at zeropointleadership.com.
And until next time on Insight TV, may you have many more creative solutions and insights that solve your most complex problems. Thank you so much for being here with us today on Insight TV.
Thank you, everyone.